All right. I don't know if are we live? Gotta wait till this pops up so I can pause it. All right. Let's see if we got any live viewers. So what's up? This is Terminator Juice doing another live Juice Opinions and waiting for some people to jump in. I made the title a little clickbaity, or I guess not exactly what I wanted, because I didn't want to have Switch Pro in the fucking title again, because I don't like that phrase, and B, it's just like, I don't want 3 videos in a row to be titled that. I'll talk about that. I have links in the description to some videos. Shout out to Mizzah Tee. His last video talking about Nintendo is they're claiming and striking channels that are showing like how to hack your Switch or how to crack it, whatever they call it, and stuff like that. So I wasn't aware really of all that going on until Mizzah Tee said something. I searched a couple videos and just saw some interesting stuff. I don't think I'm going to hack my Switch. I haven't watched enough videos or know enough about it. How much of a hassle it is and all that, and some of the downsides. I haven't gone all in, so this isn't me really promoting hacking your system or cracking your Switch, or jailbreak it's called. I'm just saying that I seen some stuff that was kind of interesting. One was a overclocking app that someone did an analysis on, some Wolfenstein 2, which has an adaptive resolution and fluctuating frame rate. Saw some interesting numbers there. That's in the description as well, and also basically kind of proves my, not theory, but what I said in a couple months ago or whatever it was, what I said what I wanted for a Switch Pro. If you haven't seen that, maybe if I remember, I'll link that in the description. But I basically said I think Nintendo has the handheld side of the Switch, the portable nature of it, down. So for me, what I thought they should do is just make a box, decent size. It doesn't have to be too big because there's no disk drive or anything. Have Ethernet port, HDMI port on the back, couple USBs on the front, and a cartridge slot, and it just be a home console. And it wouldn't have to be that expensive, because my thoughts and my theory on a Switch Pro was they just take the Tegra that's already in it, and then they just clock it to its full potential, and then same with the CPU. That was the basis basically of my whole point. They wouldn't have to do anything extra. They would just be able to save a bunch of costs on not having the screen and the Joy-Cons and the dock, everything. It could even be cheaper than the Switch is now, or the same price, and give you a nice boost to games, that have that adaptive resolution, that aren't, running so great. And so I'll get into that more later. I want to start, and I'm really bummed out because I was going to start with Mortal Kombat 11. Here's the official Nintendo Switch gameplay reveal trailer, and I just noticed that this shirt's all, it's like there's like a little bit of greenness in it probably. But anyway, somebody had recorded, they must have got the game early, and they uploaded a 14-minute video. It was 2 different fights of Mortal Kombat running on the Switch. Showed the loading, showed character selection, showed jumping back from the home menu back into the game, and the game looks really good. Like, visually, it's very impressive. And I was gonna say, like, this is Nintendo's reveal, full screen CGI. And then when it comes to actually showing gameplay, it's like, let's show it at 50% scale. So the actual screen size is, I would say, pretty close to 50%. So we don't even get full screen. And what this does is basically, not to get too like technical or anything, but if you took let's say you have a 1080p screen, right? You could put a 480 video and have it 1/4 of this 1080p screen, and that 480p video would look like 1080p because the pixel matching. Now if you blow that up, it's going to look like 40p, but if you put it pixel match it to 1080, then it's, to your eye, it's going to look way cleaner and way higher resolution than the actual video source. So what Nintendo's done here is they only have it take up half the screen so that it just looks that little bit sharper, that little bit cleaner. So, you know, yeah, they want you to know it's portable, but look at all these cutscenes, all the CGI, this pre-rendered's all full screen. No problem. And then the gameplay, they just, for whatever reason, I mean, it's not, to me, it's not just to show, hey, it's portable mode, because everybody knows the Switch is portable already. We want to see gameplay. There's no point in hiding it. And like I said, I was going to show, this is how Nintendo does it, and then cut to the video of the actual gameplay, and it looks good. Like, there's no reason to hide behind this 50% scaling. Like, just show us the game. Like, I just don't know why. But this does look cleaner. This little, on a small, this smaller video here does look cleaner than the actual gameplay that was uploaded and now has been removed. Warner Brothers claimed it, so the video's down, and I'm guessing all the other leak stuff's down. But the game looks good, regardless. So there's no reason to do that. I just thought it was kind of funny that they chose to finally show us gameplay, and then it's all tiny, especially on my phone screen. It looks so small, I couldn't barely see it. So, but again, the game looks really good. There's no reason not to just show it in full screen, like just capture it high quality, upload it 1080, whatever. There's nothing to be ashamed of. The game looks good. So, so that's the good part. And then, you know, it just seems like with all these multiplats or all these third-party games, these ports coming to Switch, so you know, in the early days, they're all late. None of them were day and date. So you all always had the, well, it's a late port. You know, it shouldn't be full price because it's coming out way later argument. You know, and then if it was a good port, you know, it always had that stigma. Oh, it's late. It's an old game. I don't know, my audio's coming in my ear. It's sounding a little crackly, but so then we started getting, I mean, we've gotten a few day and dates now. I think Starlink, FIFA 2019, and NBA, you know, basically were the day and dates. But then you got Mortal Kombat. I mean, this is the biggest new, you know, not yearly franchise type game. It's the first one to be day and date. Not a new, like Starlink's a new IP. So it was a big multi-plat, pretty big game, and it's day and date. It looks good. Wish you could show that video. I wish you could look at it, but I've seen it. Looks really good. Very impressive, better than I expected. But then they got to go and throw a 20-something gig game on an 8 gig cart and force you to download like 16 gigs if you buy the physical version on Switch. And it's just like, there's always something. Like, there's always something. And I can't remember if I talked about this last week. The blame isn't on third parties 100%. It's mostly on Nintendo for going this route, and for whatever reason, it's pretty obvious. These third party publishers, they tend to go with it. The 8 gig cart seems to be the go-to, but then you got the Mega Man collection or whatever. That's that could have fit on an 8 gig card, or and it didn't, and that you had to download half of that shit. Um, and it's just like, and I do remember, I think I did bring this up on my last Juice Opinions, but apparently there was some production issues with the carts. Nintendo delayed the 64 gig cart. There's been reports that the price has actually gone up. Yeah, I talked about this last week while watching some Hellblade footage, but so we don't know the price. So you can't really say, oh man, Warner Brothers, you cheap bastards, why couldn't you put it on a 32 gig cart or whatever, or we don't know what it costs. Is it $5 a game? Because that's a lot of money if you're talking um, a million. Let's say they sell 5 or 1 million copies. That's $5 million lost. So they got to look at from a business standpoint, and then it's really Nintendo's made the choice to make the Switch what it is and bring back game cards or whatever they call them. I think it should be on them to cut a better deal for especially a big multi-plat like this. But then you start getting into some tricky area, because even if it's on a 16 gig cart, you're still downloading like 6-7 gigs. So how much is that really that much better to us consumers? You're still not getting the full game on the cart. So it's one of those, starting to, you get some things right and then you fuck one thing up, and it's like, if we're going to get big multi-plats on the Switch, if Nintendo's going to, entice third parties to keep doing it, you can't keep putting the, what's the word I'm looking for, like that, their decisions are on us to figure out, because you have to have an SD card to, once you have more than 1 or 2 games of these third-party games. Like if you have, let's say you bought Wolfenstein 2, I forget what the file size you have to download on top of the cart, and then you buy Mortal Kombat, you got to have an SD card. So you're putting the cost on us, and then when you choose to go with the smallest card possible, really, and then now it's 16 gigs where it could have been 6 gigs if Warner Brothers would have went with the 16 gig card. So now you're taking up our precious space on our SD card, and either we're going to have to delete and reinstall shit if we want to play a game down the road that maybe we're not playing right now, or you're asking us to upgrade our SD cards. Or it's like, it's just, they can't give us just a win-win situation. There's always a negative, whether it's coming late, whether it's a bad port, whether there's no cart at all, it's just a digital download inside a case, or you buy the cart and you have to download 65% of the game on an SD card that you have to buy. It's just not that consumer friendly, and somebody's got to take the loss. And I would kind of expect Nintendo to do it. Maybe split the cost with these publishers on these bigger cards for these big games, because it's just, imagine if Mortal Kombat 11 day and date looks good, has all the features, getting all the content, and it's on a cartridge the whole game. There's no bullshit to download. You just put that cartridge in, whether it's a 32 gig cart, whatever it is, and you just put it in and your game's there. And you don't need an internet to download 16 fucking gigs. Let's say you pick it up on your lunch break at work and you want to play. You don't have to download. So it's just, the Switch itself, it seemed like such a good idea. Like it's got the portable nature of it is, such a selling point. And plus you put it on your TV for those, you get the all-in-one. But there's a lot of, and I hate to use the hidden costs because we made fun of that in the beginning. But there's a lot of expenses and just time and effort put on to us consumers that, thing's been out over 2 years. There should be, this stuff should be figured out by now. So it's just a bummer. I'm not that excited about the actual game because Mortal Kombat has kind of gone away from my interests. The last one I really was into was Mortal Kombat 3. I enjoyed 4 the little bit I played, and I haven't really touched the game since. And I just can't get past the constant interruptions to the fights with all these mid fight fatality looking moves and all this stupid stuff. So I'm not that interested in the game anyway, but it doesn't mean I didn't want, a solid port that has really no negatives to it. It's just, other than some visual downgrades over compared to PS4, Xbox One, I was hoping by this point we'd have just almost full parity with these games. So anyway, anybody in the chat, anybody watching this on the replay, are you picking up Mortal Kombat 11? Are you getting on the Switch? What are your thoughts on having to download 16 gigs on your own storage that you've had to buy to be able to play this game? Well, there's a difference between just installing off the disc and having to download. Um, and I said this in the Juices Loose podcast. And like I have a couple PS4 games that have the whole game's not on the disc with updates and stuff. I think Uncharted 4 is like 64 gigs, so 50 is the max of a Blu-ray. And then Black Ops 4, my buddy bought for me on the Xbox. That's like 120 gigs, and there's only 50 gigs on the actual disc. But the difference is downloading 50, 60 gigs when you have a terabyte, 2 terabyte drive, whatever Xbox or PlayStation you have. That's a huge difference than downloading 16 gigs when you only have 22 available to internal memory. If you wiped your Switch and started fresh, nothing on it, 23 gigs I think is what you have at your disposal. So 50, 10 to 50 gigs on a 1 terabyte, that's nothing compared to 5, 10, 15 gigs when you have 23 gigs to start with. 25 is it? I swore it was like 23.8. Maybe it's 24.8. Either way, the NBA 2K save file is 5, and then the game is like 15 or some. I think it was more than that with 2K18. I don't know about 2K19. Basically, any one of these third-party games, you'd be lucky to get one game with the internal memory, and that's if you're not planning on buying DLC for, like, if you got the physical version of Splatoon 2, like all that content takes up gigs. Breath of the Wild DLC takes gigabytes, any digital games you buy. So basically you need an SD card if you're going to buy any of these big third-party multiplats. You don't need to buy additional memory. Yeah, 64 gigs is $16 at GameStop. So what, you're going to have swapping out SD cards you fit 4 games on there? Oh, I'm putting Mortal Kombat 11. Oh wait, that's on my other SD card. No, if you're not putting at least 120 gigs, probably 240 is what you really want. That asking me to switch out SD cards for every other game, I'm not gonna do that. I'm sorry. That's just something I'm not gonna do. But so like I was saying, you can get away with it. My PlayStation 4, I think it's only 500. I don't remember if I have a 500 1 terabyte. I got like 10, 11 full games installed, and I still have plenty of room. So I just feel like, and then Mortal Kombat 11, according to the official box art postings, doesn't have the banner about having to download. Yeah, $44 for 128 gig. That's almost the price of a game. That you have to, if you're gonna support the Switch and these third-party games where the whole game's not on the cart, you have to spend more money. The price of the Switch just went from $300 to $344, and that's if you don't want a Pro controller, which I think is pretty much a mandatory, and that's another $70. So, that on the Juices Loose, we made a lot fun of the hidden cost. People were trying to like downplay the Switch in the beginning, and they put a bunch of ridiculous things on there. But now that was before we knew games weren't going to all fit on the game card. That was before I got a chance to like utilize the Switch, the Joy Cons and the grip for extended period of time. And yeah, those hidden costs are actually there. I had to buy grips. Um, I had to buy rubber grips so I could actually play my Switch in portable mode. Yeah, they were only $11 or whatever, but all this shit keeps adding up. And I know it's always been that way. You buy a console, you buy an extra controller. Back in the day, you'd buy memory cards. Um, you might buy like uh, like I can't even think back in the day, like an accessory of some sort. So it's just one of those things where I figured by year two, like Mizzah Tee said, that the price of the game cards would have actually come down because they got to be manufacturing these things in mass quantities, massive quantities with the game selling. Last we heard, Smash was at 12 million fucking units. After like 2 months, it's probably at 15 now. Mario Kart 15, Pokemon was at 10 after a couple months. They have to be mass producing. But they're probably mass producing the fucking 8 gig one. The 16 gig still used quite a bit even by Nintendo. I mean, a lot of games are definitely over 8 gigs. But you'd think at this point at least the 16 gig would be the bare minimum for like if you're gonna like a third party game that's bigger. You think 16 gig would be the go-to. Let's see, Lenny Wright, you prefer if they delayed the game and put everything on the card, but it doesn't. I don't think this is anything to do with they started production before the game was finished type of thing. I think this is really if they're gonna make us download something, they probably just said, what's the minimum we need to have the game somewhat playable if they don't have an internet connection? Oh, we can get it down to 6 gigs. There's something. I'm curious how many characters there are if you just put that game in with your Wi-Fi turned off. I'm very curious how many characters are actually playable and how much is actually playable. It's cost. Like, I understand if there's like a day one patch, like they got to start producing these things months in advance, whatever it is. And they're like, oh yeah, we tweaked this one thing. Oh, here's a 500 megabyte update or something. That stuff I don't really get mad about. But 16 gig download just to play the fucking game. I mean, 16 gigs is nothing on PS4. That'd be like, I'd be happy if that's all I had to download. But you got to scale it down to the default internal memory of the Switch, and it's not very big, and it's actually kind of embarrassing to think about in 2019, 32 gigs being the internal storage when like you said, somebody said 64 gigs is $16 for an SD card. Like, I don't know why at the very least they didn't just start throwing more internal memory in these things when they started taking out. Seemed like a nice thing they could have done last holiday to for all new Switch owners, maybe entice somebody who doesn't want to have an SD card plugged in, like, hey, this Switch has 128 gigs of internal memory, same price, phase out the 32 gigs. Like, I don't know, that's the kind of stuff that should be happening. I think if Iwata was around, rest in peace, I think probably would be happening. But anyway, enough about that. I want to talk about basically the little bit I've watched, right, of like people hacking their Switch. Some of the, like, you get themes, like check out Mizzah Tee's last video. I have the link to his channel in the description. He kind of, in that video, he mentioned some things I was unaware of, so I watched a little bit. The homebrew is back. I remember that on the Wii. I never hacked my Wii. Never been anyone that was interested in that. My interest is a little more peaked on the Switch, but it seems a little bit more of a hassle maybe from what I've seen so far. But what people have done is they've added custom themes they've added where you could rearrange your games. And let me get this video up. So this is a custom theme. Change the layout. I'll just play this. And yeah, you have to do some BS to hack your Switch, but why can't Nintendo do this? Like, I don't understand. It's just, it seems like it'd be simple. It's just a nice little custom thing. Yeah, I wouldn't go for this one, but still, why does this not exist? Why can people rearrange the menu? There's an MP3 player on there. There's an overclocking tool, which is, I mean, I didn't expect that. I think that it shows different ones here. Put a Windows theme on there. Like, how hard can this be for Nintendo to do? And what's the reason you wouldn't do this? So, like, he literally put a lock screen, which is Windows 10, and then a Windows 10 background. Like, it's nothing. It's nothing like game changer, but it's just a nice touch. Like, for me, I'd want the game icons to be bigger than this. I don't know if that's possible, but why does something like this not exist? It makes me feel like either Nintendo's got something so huge in the works that the whole OS is going to be completely overhauled, or they just don't care. It's just selling so well that why mess with it? But who wouldn't want this? And just make it optional. Hopefully don't do what they do for the 3DS and charge for the goddamn themes. That was fucking, I mean, that's pretty low in my opinion, but why not add that? There's no reason not to be able to do customize your system. And I understand not everybody would use it or wants it, and it's just a small thing, but after 2 years, show us that you've been working on this stuff. Don't, like, they put in an update that lets you zoom in just randomly for your in whatever, either the home menu or a game. You're putting that in, but you can't give us themes. And if you're gonna do pay only themes, then don't fucking do it. I say fuck you. But well, you could use your gold coins though, that just from buying games, and I'd probably get at least one if I could use my gold coins. But just let us add stuff. Like, I don't. You think your system's already been completely hacked, wide open. Like, you got an SD card slot. Just let me put some images on there, put them in my background. I mean, or let me just at least go to your Nintendo, my Nintendo account and do it there and have it. So like you do it not through an SD card or something, but I don't know. It's just that's weird to me. There's a bunch of apps. I have a video linked, but people are getting dinged on YouTube for posting this stuff. That people are starting to get afraid to post anything. But I did. There's an overclocking video that's, like, if you weren't here earlier, I did a Juice Opinions a few months ago saying the Switch Pro, what I want is just a small box that's console, basically docked mode only. It's just a little box with all the Switch current chipset in it, with just have them clocked at their full speed. In this video, it's in the description, called Overclocking the Switch. He actually did what I said. On the Switch now, they overclock the CPU, GPU, and there's a bunch of different games like Doom and Wolfenstein 2, and it doesn't even have to be clocked at 100% of what the Tegra and the ARM processor can be clocked at. And Wolfenstein 2 is running lock 30 720p the whole time. It was for those that don't know, real quick, if you don't want to watch that video, the Tegra in the NVIDIA Shield TV thing that's been out a few years, and I think this information was known before the Switch even came out. But the Tegra GPU's like 900 something megahertz, and then the ARM processor is 2 gigahertz. But for the Switch, the ARM processor is 1 gigahertz, so it's cut in half. And the docked GPU Tegra is 768 megahertz, and then portable mode is 307 megahertz. So what this guy did, thanks to the homebrew, the hacking, somebody added an overclocking feature. So he's able to replicate my theory or my idea about just taking the same chipset and putting them at higher clock speeds and getting results in these games that have, you know, adaptive resolutions and fluctuating frame rates. And basically, the Switch, as it is right now, with just some, I mean, not even full overclock, is hitting what I said I'd pay extra for with a new Switch. With a docked only Switch, you know, I'd buy a new one if it did this. And then, so to get Wolfenstein 2 running at lock 30, 720p, it was overclocked to 1.4 gigahertz, the CPU, and left the GPU exactly the same at 768. That's all it took. Then he bumped the GPU up higher and CPU up higher, and it made no difference because the games would need to be patched to take more advantage. So just going up to 1.4 gigahertz locked the frame rate in these games, you know, with no dips in the testing he did. A little bump to portable mode from 307 megahertz to 460 brought the resolution up to full 720p on games that have adaptive resolutions. I don't know what that affected battery life. He didn't do. That's what somebody needs to do, really, is to know, because, you know, Nintendo has had to think about, and I said this in my juice opinions. So they had these chips, and they, you know, they couldn't, if they just put them at the stock numbers, then portable mode would have been 20 minutes of battery life, you know, like maybe an hour, something like that. So you can't blame Nintendo for dropping it down for portable mode. But as soon as they did that, they had to make a decision. And the decision was, do we want the CPU to change from dock to portable mode? And then once they made that decision that they wanted them to be the same, then that instantly affected what docked mode, the potential for docked mode was going to be. So once they made the decision that whatever battery life they wanted, these are the clock settings, that locked it in for docked mode, because if you have fluctuating CPU, then that would change. The developers would have a lot of trouble, let's say if it's AI related, or, you know, big open world with physics and stuff. The dock mode would actually have different performance. Then you take it portable, then things start changing, because now they'd have to develop for a situation where now you're running in like Breath of the Wild. These physics are happening. You pull the system off like they wanted, and it's downclocking the CPU. Then all of a sudden you're messing up. So that had to be, it had to be the same. The CPU had to stay the same. People are saying the Switch gets hot. Do you have a Switch, Mo War? It doesn't get that hot at all. I mean, mine barely gets warm. I've heard the fan kick on 2 times in 2 years while playing games. So the Switch is so underclocked right now. It's definitely not hot. I guess if you were charging it and playing portable mode for a long time, I guess it would get warm, just like your phone. If you plug your phone in, the battery's charging, and then you're watching YouTube or something, it's going to get warm. But in normal situations, that's what the fan's for. The fan doesn't kick on in portable mode that I've ever. While, you know, I always play without it plugged in. I've never played portable mode with it plugged in, so I don't know if that affects it. But I've never had the fan kick on in portable mode. So right now, or at least ramp up so I can actually hear it, the fan when it kicks on really loud. That's why I know distinctly it's happened twice, because it is very loud when it does. But my Switch doesn't get that warm at all. Sitting in the dock, I mean it's warm, but I mean you got a tablet. Do you have a phone, like a newer phone? Those things have the clock speeds and stuff are beyond the Switch at this point now, and I mean they have no fan, so but that's the other thing. I didn't really get into it yet. I will talk about the potential negatives, but anyway, what this guy learned was, instead of, my thought was, oh, you put the CPU at 2 gigahertz, then the GPU at the 900, and it doesn't even take that. 1.4 is what it took to get the frame rates locked on these games, and they didn't really have to mess with the GPU to get the resolution to bump up. Even when he did, it was only 900, so it's only a gain of like 132 megahertz on the GPU. So if Nintendo did do what I thought, and put those higher clock speeds on with maybe a better cooling solution, that would probably be enough just to count that as a Switch Pro, I would think, because if you're going up to the 2 gigs, then we're talking 60 frames per second in docked. But it's a slippery slope. I understand why Nintendo just isn't gonna just boom throw something out there like that, but seeing what people are doing, they're playing these games, their Switches aren't catching on fire. It hasn't been that long, but the one guy bumped the Switch up to 460 megahertz, and in portable mode, the comparison's just undeniable. Seeing the difference, just that little bit of an overclock on the GPU. Again, like I started talking about earlier, no one's done a video showing the battery life though. What's the hit to the battery life in that scenario? Yeah, I haven't heard. I don't play Splatoon 2 anymore, so maybe that one does run a little hotter. Obviously, some games, but the thing about Splatoon, I don't know. I don't know if Splatoon has an adaptive resolution. It probably does. But the other side of this is, there's some games that there's gonna be no benefit. Indie games, there's 2D games like Hollow Knight, as beautiful as it is, there's gonna be no benefit. It's already 1080p 60. There's no benefit to overclocking. Mario Kart 8, without a patch, there's no benefit. It's already 1080p 60. You'd have to have patch in like anti-aliasing or any lighting effect or anything to make that game look any different. So it wouldn't affect every game. So that's again, like I said, it's a slippery slope. You bump that up, it improves. Let's say Breath of the Wild instantly lock 30 900p, never dips. There's a big plus there, but Smash Brothers Ultimate, it's already 1080p 60. There's no gain. You see nothing. So then people will be like, well, why did I buy this Switch? They'd have to patch in improvements to those types of games. So it's not an easy solution, but I just thought it was interesting that my idea of what I kind of would be happy with has already been proven to be true. Like, you don't need the Tegra X2. You don't need a new processor. You just clock them up to the speed they're capable of, and you're not going to be at Xbox One level of performance, but I can tell you just from that video, seeing Wolfenstein 2 like at a lock 720p without the dips down to 540 or whatever that game takes, it does look a lot cleaner. And at a solid frame rate that has no dips, even if it's 30, to me that's a worthwhile improvement. And to the point where, like, I'm really curious to see somebody upload like the Korok forest in Breath of the Wild with how low where's the line where the overclock doesn't do anything, where let's say at 1.3 the frame rate still stutters at times, but at 1.4 it's locked. at 1.5 there's no gain. Where's that line at? And then curious to get some kind of reports from anybody with thermals or any kind of temperature. How much more does the fan crank up to high speed? That type of stuff's all unknown to me. But it's just funny that all this talk about a Nintendo Switch Pro, and like I said, Nintendo Prime made a good video about them making a custom chipset and this and this, and it's like they already have the chipset inside to get a significant boost for the Switch, but maybe Nintendo is just not willing to have that CPU in dock mode be higher, and I guess I can't blame them. You want that easy drop in, drop out, portable versus TV mode, but why not give us the option? Why not let developers put in an option, take that limiter off, and if I want to play portable mode full 720p but get an hour and a half battery life instead of 3 hours, why not give me that option? Why not let me decide that? If I want the 3 hour battery life, then I turn that off, call it boost mode. I put a tweet, actually have a poll, and let's see what the results are. Let's see here. All right, here's the poll. So 44 votes. Let me retweet it so if Nintendo added a boost mode option that gave you better performance while docked at the cost of the Switch's fan kicking on way more frequent, would you use it? And I said, for example, let's say boost mode locked the frame rate in games like Breath of the Wild and Xenoblade while also staying near the target resolution. 68% said yes, 32% said no. I don't know why you wouldn't use it. If Nintendo released it, obviously, in this hypothetical, it would have been tested and it's not going to damage your Switch. It's just going to kick the fan on more. And then I could have even gone into portable mode where it would just reduce the battery life by whatever percent. Let us decide. So yeah, 68%, 44 votes. So go vote on that. See if I can paste it here. But yeah, do I want to hack the Switch though? That's the thing. I'm curious. I like the themes. I like some of the improvements. I'm not worried. I don't think there's no scenario where this Switch is, my day one Switch is going to stay with me and I'm never going to part with it. Like I'd be absolutely shocked if there's not some kind of revision within, the next year that's enticing to me that I'm going to buy that and sell my current day one Switch. So the thought of hacking it doesn't really scare me, like modding, like actually modding the hardware of like an N64 or GameCube or Wii or something. There's no way I'd ever mod my day one N64. That's, that vintage console has a lot of meaning to me. So hacking software that you could probably just wipe the thing and undo it if you ever wanted to. I don't know the negatives. Like I said, I haven't gone into this. I'm not advocating it. I'm not trying to promote it. I just think it's interesting that people have cracked this thing open and adding all these cool things. Something as simple as themes that there's no reason Nintendo shouldn't have by now. So yeah. But what do you think? Would it be something you'd consider? Like again, the overclocking thing. There's so many games that doesn't take advantage. You just turn it off, and you have to turn it off to put it in sleep mode. If you leave it on, I guess it really could damage your system. So you have to just turn the system on, go to the overclocking thing, turn it on, play the game, and then turn it off before you turn your Switch off. So it's not. This is not something done by Nintendo. This is people doing what they can with, whatever the tools they have. And I just think it's interesting. And it does kind of show some light onto how a system is designed. And like I said in the Juices Loose group chat, I never once considered anything other than the 3DS, DS, whatever they had inside them was at 100%. I never even considered the possibility that Nintendo put in chipsets and then ran them at half clock, for battery life or whatever. To me, I just assumed they put in whatever they put in. They're running it at 100% so that they can get 100% out of it. Never thought, I guess I knew that the Switch CPU was 50% of what the NVIDIA Shield runs at, so I knew it could do 2 gigahertz, and it was at 1. But I didn't, in my wildest dreams, think somebody could just go in there, bump up those numbers in the Switch, and then have games just perform better. Like, I just never thought that was even possible. And the more I think about it now, I'm like, this could be a standard thing. Like the GameCube could have been clocked down. I don't know why, because it's cooked into a constant power source. Maybe it's because this thing's portable, and maybe it's a handheld thing. Maybe you put in a CPU and GPU that can do way more, but you put them at a lower clock speed for battery, and it's better than putting in a lower end, GPU and have it run at 100% the whole time. I don't know enough about that stuff to know what's better, what's worse. But I just think it's, really interesting that somebody went in there and added an overclocking, because I've been doing some overclocking on my own computer, so something I've been doing and thinking about. I got my Ryzen 7 at 4 gigahertz right now. It's, I think, defaults at 3.2 or 3.4, and it's just like, I don't know what technically what I'm gaining by having it. It's made to overclock up to 4.1, so I'm, it's not like I'm doing anything damaging to the system. And I do have nice fans and checking. I was checking my temps while I was messing with it. But anyway, what do you guys think? Any chance you'd hack your Switch, overclock it, or just to add themes, or to add an MP3 player, whatever? And I guess I could have talked about the Smash update. We'll talk about that more on the Juices Loose podcast. I was disappointed that even though the stage editor and the video replay editing looks amazing, I mean, it's phenomenal, I was a little disappointed that they didn't really add some quality of life improvements. It's like you couldn't have added an invite system. You couldn't have added, some improvements. Maybe they did, and they just didn't detail some of the lobby or the arena, some of the annoyances with creating arenas and stuff. And when you're in there, I'd be curious to see if there's any improvement into when you're spectating. You got to like be in the perfect spot for like 5 seconds before you start the match, otherwise the person can't spectate. I don't know. I just hope there's some bigger fixes, maybe behind the scenes. And then I tried the Switch app on my phone for the Smash Brothers thing, and I tried to watch a video, and my phone just instantly shut off, like shut the whole thing down. I was at 32% battery, and it just shut the whole thing down. So that was kind of, I don't know if that was a freak accident or there's something up there, but not interested in Joker. Looks like a cool move set and, cool looking character. I just can't support this character from a almost entirely Nintendo or Sony franchise, PlayStation franchise in the Persona series, with just like with Solid Snake. I didn't have to buy him extra. I would have never. But I feel buying Joker sends the wrong message that, hey, I want these characters from games that aren't on Nintendo systems. Like, that Nintendo fan in me that just can't pull the trigger on that. I can't support that. Oh, maybe they'll announce Persona 5 this year at E3 for the Switch. Okay, I guess. But what happened with the Cloud being in Smash 4 is we got all these old Final Fantasy games on the next system, all these old ass games at near full price. That's what we got for having cloud on the Wii U version of Smash. So I don't know. $6 for a character, or yeah, it's $6 for a character, 25 for the pass, which saves you $5 total. I'd rather just buy the characters I want, and. But yeah. Anyway, we'll talk more about that on the Juices Loose podcast. So thanks for everybody for tuning in. I know this is kind of a random Juice Opinions on a Thursday. Didn't have my usual turnout, but it's all right. So hopefully found this entertaining. Leave your thoughts, comments below if you're watching this on the replay. And yeah, I'll see you guys on the next probably Juices Loose, but who knows? Maybe something will happen this weekend. Maybe I'll pop up again. So anyway, have a good night, and we'll see you next time.